It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Wow.
What? What do you got?
Miracles do happen.
They do?
Yes.
What happened?
I never thought that, this is just, I'm kidding here, by the way.
Oh.
This is just totally, just blowing the atheist right out of me. I'm kidding.
Yeah?
I'm kidding here. I'm kidding. Okay, I'm kidding. I don't want to get emails.
You
on
never
it.
had any atheists. To be very clear.
Yeah.
Right. Probably not good to say that on a Sunday night either.
It's Monday morning.
That's true, technically speaking.
Oh, wait a minute.
Well, West Coast it isn't, and out in Hawaii, Alaska, it's not.
No.
What?
The Bills lost. There is no God.
No.
So it's...
Wow. Okay, but the Cowboys won, but still, I'm not sure. No.
But here it is. Here's what I want to get to.
What do you got?
On the Sunday morning news shows yesterday, Kristen Welker. Here we go.
Okay.
But let me ask you, because you say this is a Republican shutdown, but it's Democratic senators who are withholding their votes on what is called a clean resolution. That means no strings attached, which is something, quite frankly, Leader, that you and other Democrats have advocated for in the past. Take a look.
You do not use the threat of shutting down government to try to advance your policy agenda.
First thing that the House has to do is pass a clean 6-week CR.
A continuing resolution that is at the fiscal year 2023 levels is the only way forward.
She played that and said that. Welker.
Okay, have we checked on Kristen Welker to make sure she's feeling okay? That's... it's getting close to journalism. If she's not careful, she'll become a journalist.
And then this is her with calling out Adam Schiff.
All
right, here we go.
Okay.
But you actually did make a similar point back in 2013. That's when Tea Party Republicans pushed to shut down the government against Obamacare. Let me play that for you. Get your reaction on the other side.
It's more than fair to ask the president to negotiate improvements to the Affordable Care Act, but not with the threat of shutting down the government or defaulting on our debt. It's just no way to do business and can't be allowed to proceed that way, not only for this president, but for future presidents.
Wow.
Well, it's really, I can't believe they're still arguing that this weekend.
Yeah.
That was still part of the argument. And it was just like, what? And then you had, Pete Ducey was on. Mm-hmm. Pete Ducey was on with Senator Mark Kelly, and Ducey kept saying illegals and health insurance. It's not about health insurance.
No.
Ducey even had it wrong.
Yeah.
Oh, and then did you see the president taking off on Ducey? Oh, yeah. Here it is.
Right.
Here it is from Truth Social.
All right.
Why is Fox? And by the way, this wasn't even planned for me to jump to this. I just popped into my head.
Yeah.
Why is Fox News and Pete Ducey putting on Democratic Senator Mark Kelly to talk about totally unabated or challenged health care? The fake spin is so bad for Republicans that it is hard to believe that we win. It will be very unfair in the future when they don't have Trump to fight for them. Therefore, we should fix it now. I'm watching this interview. It just doesn't end. Fox should either get on board or get off board now. But at this point, it just doesn't make any difference to me. They suck up the ratings because of us, and then they spin them in the Democrats' direction. They refuse to put up polls that correctly show me at 65% popularity. I don't know who has that number. I don't know where he's
not
a Republican record. But if I have a fake bad poll, many of which are done by Fox, one of the worst pollsters out there is Fox News poll. They put them up immediately and with gusto. I just
By the way, this marks the first time anyone has ever used the word gusto on social media because no one else has used the word gusto since 1942.
Republicans are so tired of this fight with Fox, always trying to be so politically correct. Thank you for your attention to this matter. By the way,
Yeah, I love that.
have you been? I've been leaving to my buddies
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah.
All my texts end with "Thank you for paying attention to this matter."
Yeah, thank you for your attention to this matter.
Yeah, thank you for your attention.
I use that all this. I use that all the time.
But I have no idea where there's a poll that shows he's got 65%.
Yeah, I don't-
Not even
yeah,
Rasmussen shows that.
yeah,
I'd like to see where that. I want to see who did that poll.
yeah. Right.
He's got to be quoting something. I just don't know what it is because I don't know what poll out there.
Yeah, I haven't
says
seen
that.
it.
But so that was and to me, I was sort of it was really dying down except for the Sunday morning news shows, a shutdown.
Yeah,
It really was.
yeah, it really was. It didn't resonate hardly at all.
Yeah.
Friday and Saturday. I mean,
it was really, it's really Trump and sending the National Guard, wanting to send it to Portland and
right.
Chicago.
Yeah.
And the one judge came out against it in Portland.
right.
And
And then came out, and then the same judge said that couldn't send the California National Guard to.
couldn't send Oregon,
Yeah,
couldn't
so-
send California.
Yeah.
So now he's gone to Texas, where the governor has approved to do it.
Mm-hmm.
A few of my buddies asked me, they said, well, what do you think about it? And I said, well, I don't know how a judge can tell a president when a situation is serious enough with federal employees
Yes.
to send in the National Guard to protect them.
Especially with what, everything you've got going on in Portland. Now we see in Chicago, the stuff there. And Pritzker, Governor Pritzker in Illinois saying, we now have to call this what it is, Trump's invasion. Those right there are dangerous words.
Yeah.
This is what leads to further violence when you try to convince, in fact, you're effective in convincing people, or at least, at the very least, giving them permission to do it by calling this, as a sitting governor, calling this an invasion, which it is not. And you're making these, you're turning these ICE agents into targets.
Oh, Bill Maloogian did a report from Portland. I don't know if you saw it, and he was just like, these people are scared.
Yeah.
Inside of ICE, they don't know. They're not sure how to respond to this. And you saw we'll have this coming up. The National Police Union come out and say this is horrendous.
Yeah.
We're being told, local police are being told, don't come to the aid.
Right. Stand down.
When the feds need it, don't come to the aid of federal law enforcement.
Right.
He said this is absolutely unheard of.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's escalating so badly. And, one of the things we talked about in recent weeks, sometime in the last couple of weeks, I mentioned, because the left was saying, we want these masks off. We want the masks off. Newsom. They need to take their mask off. We need to know who they are. They basically want to dox these agents. And I said, it's not just the violent protesters here in the States. It's also the cartel members. And Kristi Noem confirmed that over the weekend, as she confirmed that there are bounties on these ICE agents. And they said she didn't distinguish actually between ICE agents and Border Patrol agents, but those enforcing the border. I mean, I would assume it's both, basically where everything is now, by the cartel. The cartel is putting bounties on them. And she said that they're actually effectively finding out who these individuals are, who the agents actually are. It's become extremely dangerous. But that's something with the cartels that has been going on for a long time. But what is different with this is that the cartels, much like, Hamas and other terrorist organizations, they feel emboldened by their supporters, essentially, in targeting ICE with these protesters here in the United States. And you see major city leaders calling this an invasion into their states and cities by Trump, and these ICE agents are just doing their jobs. That's all they're doing. And now the cartels see this wide opening where they get some public support inside the U.S. if they want to target ICE agents.
Well, I mean, right, because the invasion is not just the National Guard coming in to protect ICE.
Right.
It's ICE going in
yes.
that they say is an invasion.
Exactly.
ICE going in, and we're going to have to go through it again. And I said this, what was it, last week or the week before? I said we're going to have to do this every single week.
Yep.
We're going to have to
Yep.
sit there and get to the minutia of what the law,
Yep.
how the law actually works.
Yep.
Because you've got outright lies
Yeah.
coming from Pritzker and
Yeah.
Newsom and I forgot the name of the governor. I just popped out of my mind. The governor of Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and even the judge. Because when I saw that the judge did it, I said, okay, what did the judge say? And she said, it hasn't risen to the level of danger, in my opinion.
This is what I said last week or week before.
So she's making the case that it is constitutional for the president to send in the National Guard
Right.
to protect ICE. She's making the decision.
Some arbitrary standard.
She didn't say what that standard was.
No.
And I'm thinking, you can't do that as a judge to the executive
No,
branch.
you don't get to
can't do
decide that.
You can't. Because she's not saying
That he doesn't have authority.
that he doesn't have authority to send them
No.
in if they're in danger. She's simply saying, I don't believe it's risen to the level of danger enough. Well, a single judge doesn't get to make that call.
No.
I don't think a group of judges get to make that call.
I don't believe they do either.
Congress might be able to, but I don't think Congress might not even be able to do that.
Yeah,
You mentioned Congress, Democrats coming up with a law that says any federal agency in a sanctuary city is on its own. If the police don't help, sorry, we can't send in the National Guard in order to protect you, carrying out the law that we passed that you're supposed to enforce.
If they had a majority in both a super majority in both the House and the Senate, I could see today's Democrats doing that. Now, I don't think it would stand. I don't think it would stand up to constitutional muster. I think the Supreme Court may strike that down. It would be an interesting case, certainly. But you look at this, and this is exactly
you would need to have some type of constitutional amendment, and I don't even know how that would work.
Yeah, I don't even know how that would work. Yeah, it would. Yeah, that's a long, long road. But it doesn't mean they wouldn't try. But it's when you look at that. How the judge is deciding. You know, it's something that I brought up last week, just kind of a thought threw out there, you know, oh, well, it's not that dangerous yet. And sure enough, that judge basically said the same thing. This is how they think. We'll choose an arbitrary standard. We'll govern Trump because of Trump derangement syndrome. That's what's going on here. This is what's going on. This is a cultural war, and it is right now full steam ahead for the left.
And you think about it, we can even, and we will, we can even apply it because the Hegseth speech from last week seemed to blow up again, and Democrats going crazy. And it's just like, well, we'll read you some of the things he said, and you tell me whether it's radical or not.
Right.
And it's really interesting to see the number of people, even Democrats, you know, that they may not be Democrat politicians, but have said he really didn't say anything wrong.
Right.
And even never Trumpers on the conservative side who have said it was fine what he said.
Right. Right.
It was fine. Yeah, we
need to be ready. We need to have standards, and that standard needs to be met by anybody who's going to qualify to be in that uniform.
Right.
You don't have a right to be in that uniform. You need to meet that standard for the uniform. I'll be 60 here within a couple of months. I don't get to just go in and say, oh, I want to join because I want to join. You have to accept me. It doesn't work that way.
Now, see, I go in there and I just kick butt.
Yeah, exactly.
At my age.
Right, yes. You'd be telling them all kinds of things to do.
Could you guys get me this? Could you
Yeah,
get me
yeah,
this? Could you
to
get
do
me
for you.
I need
Yeah.
I need an extremely high rank if I go into the military. Extremely high.
Do we have a 6-star general?
Could you bring the caviar over here? I'm
right.
doing some war games here.
And where's my waiter?
Yes. 866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at JJ Keller. When driving, you need to manage the space around your vehicle so that there's enough space to allow you to adjust when traffic conditions change. The space ahead of your vehicle is the most important. One rule of thumb is to allow at least 1 second for each 10 feet of vehicle length at speeds below 40 miles per hour. At greater speeds, add an additional second. It's impossible to keep other drivers from tailgating you, but there are some things you can do to make it safer, such as increasing your following distance, avoiding quick lane changes, and slowing down. There are also several things you should do to ensure that there is plenty of space between the side of your vehicle and other vehicles. Don't hug the center line, and avoid traveling alongside other vehicles in strong winds. This tip was brought to you by JJ Keller and Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
We're Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. I saw this one also. Just there's so many topics here for the Monday show.
Yeah, I know.
But Elizabeth McDonald from Fox Business had this one.
Yeah.
And I just saw, I went, wow. Hakeem Jeffries demand you pay your fair share with higher taxes when he only pays $213 in property taxes each year since buying his $1.2 million Brooklyn condo in 2007. He's exploiting a tax abatement program meant for low-income affordable housing. He supported expanding this loophole during his tenure in the New York State Assembly, even though the program now costs the city approximately $1.4 billion annually in lost tax revenue. And that's all she put. And I just saw this before we went on the air.
Mm-hmm.
How the hell does that work? How does the minority leader of the House pay just $213 in property taxes on a $1.2 million Brooklyn condo? How do you justify that?
Yeah, that's a good question.
How does that happen? And when I read it, I said, okay, but you haven't explained it completely to me. And I don't know about that. I don't know about what the law is or what the program, but that seems to make no sense, right? $1.2 million property, and you're paying
doesn't make sense.
$213 in property taxes.
Right.
I tell you right now, there's a ton of people in New York right now going, what?
And one of them is running for mayor. Oh, to get pinched by your own side. Oh, wouldn't that be a problem? But that's, if you think about it, I mean, that's, the question is there, yeah, I want to see the paperwork.
Yeah, I want to see why.
I want to see what exemptions,
Yeah,
what exemption he's qualifying for.
Yeah. He's exploiting a tax abatement program meant for low-income affordable housing. So maybe it's me. Is $1.2 million in New York just a shack now?
Well, it might be. I haven't checked prices in a while.
Okay,
since inflation. I mean,
is it what is? I used to watch the guy. He really doesn't do as much real estate anymore.
Yeah,
Cash Jordan on YouTube. He's now doing illegal immigrant stuff all the time. He used to be just, showing different apartments, and he showed a few apartments that were, I'm not kidding, like 5 by 10.
Wow.
That was it.
Yeah,
and I'm thinking,
thanks.
Is that a 1 point? If that's the case, then I can understand a $213 property tax.
Wow, my shed in my backyard is bigger than that. Yeah.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
And he is Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen when and where you choose. The nation's largest police union condemned reports that Chicago officers were told not to help ICE agents surrounded by protesters, calling it shocking and a violation of law enforcement's duty to protect fellow officers in danger. Presidents of the National Fraternal Order of Police and the Illinois State Fraternal Order of the Police expressed shock at reports that Chicago's chief of patrol directed officers not to assist U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents as they were surrounded by protesters on Saturday. Details are still emerging, but it appears the officers from the Chicago Police Department were ordered not to assist a group of ICE agents while they were physically threatened by what appears to be a very angry mob, said National Fraternal Order of Police President Patrick Yose in a press release. Let me be clear. Both the National Fraternal Order of Police and the Illinois Fraternal Order of Police believe that when an officer calls for assistance, you answer no matter what. Yotes and the Illinois State President, Chris Southward, said the directive violated the most basic principle of law enforcement, officers helping other officers in danger. They cited the Illinois Trust Act, which limits local police involvement in immigration enforcement, and said it is contributing to a breakdown between local and federal law enforcement, particularly in sanctuary cities like Chicago. They also cited the Department of Homeland Security data showing ICE agents have faced a 1,000% increase in violence since the start of the year. Mr. Southwood called the alleged order a dangerous precedent for all law enforcement. You heard about the one woman that, that was the big controversy. Pritzker said that was propaganda, the one woman with the semi-automatic.
Yeah. Right.
ICE has said she's the one of them has been doxing the actual officers.
Yeah, she tried to run the officers down. They found out later that she, in fact, was toting a semi-automatic weapon. And, this is, again, this is highly organized. And it's also, again, highly supported by people at the highest level in these states and cities. We're seeing it. Newsom, Pritzker, and the leaders of these blue cities. I got to be honest with you. I don't know how you serve. I don't know. I'm thinking of, I had a family member who was NYPD for a number of years and then went on to the FBI, but said the politics at the NYPD, and I haven't spoken to him in a while, but about the FBI, but he said the politics at NYPD, my gosh, it was insane. Now, in terms of, fellow officers and everything else, and the police union, the union always has your back. The police associations always have your back. Thank goodness for that. But how do you serve at a city level when you're being told to stand down and not help these officers, these federal officers who are being targeted?
Well, when you know that the government doesn't have your back.
Right.
Because remember, these are some of the same people that, were for defunding the police.
Yeah.
And now they're pretending that they're tough on law and order. But I'm not surprised by any of this, and nobody should be surprised. These cities, and remember the poll of Democrats that, what was it, a couple of weeks ago, that the majority came out in favor of wanting illegal immigrant criminals to be able to run free in their cities.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So if you have that, if that's the opinion, and as a politician that you have it. Remember, the sanctuary cities are saying we are not going to abide or help with any of the enforcement of the law, of the federal law that was passed by the people of the United States through their elected representatives. You have the left attempting to describe what is going on as fascism. Whether you like what's going on or not, ICE is enforcing the laws of the United States, which is the law of the people through their elected representatives. That is as democratic or as republic as you can get, as democratic republic as you can get.
Yeah.
But then it goes a step further. Then what they're saying is if the federal government comes in order to enforce federal law in our city, could you imagine if the federal government just said, if local governments just said, no, kidnapping's allowed here. We know it's a federal offense. You can't. Bank robbery. We're going to allow bank robbery. Don't you dare, FBI, come in and stop these bank robberies.
Right.
We're not going to. No, we're a bank robbery. These people just need. Remember what AOC said when they were shoplifting?
Right.
Maybe they just need something to eat.
Well, being part of a foreign gang is just learning social skills.
Exactly.
They're associating with each other.
Think about that with the Venezuelan gangs in there, and they're defending it.
Yes.
Trying to figure I'll find the audio that I had here. Gosh, it just goes in so many different directions because it's so insane, Eric.
Right.
This is Scott Jennings the other day with one of the former hosts of TMZ, and it just got to be completely and totally ludicrous. Here it is. Former TMZ host Van Latham. All right, here we go.
All right.
I know that Trinidad Aragua and gangs and whatever, it's a catch-all to treat people however you want, to go in there and shred the Constitution or whatever else it is that you want to do. What I'm asking you is this. Do you think that children should have been zip-tied and pulled out of an apartment complex and traumatized like that? Yes or no?
I don't think children should be put in harm's way by transnational gangs.
Just answer the question. Yes or no? Do you think that children...
I don't accept the premise of your question.
I'm asking
the
you
government's not
whether
putting
or not,
children in harm's way. Trinidad Aragua...
Real calm now. Real calm. Like
they're the ones putting children in harm's way.
Gentlemen and gentlemen, we have a responsibility for the way we treat people with the power that we have here in America. And we have a standard that we should treat human life with. And I'm asking you very clearly, concisely, should children be treated that way? The Scott Jennings like that?
I don't accept the premise of your question.
All right, cool.
I don't believe that the premise of your question is accurate. I would ask you back. Should children be allowed to live in an apartment building with Trinidad Aragua? Should the entire community of Chicago have to live with Trinidad Aragua because they hide behind these children?
But here's the thing.
You can see he's like upset that Scott Jennings is bringing that up.
Yeah.
As if Trinidad Aragua being in the city is not something we should be concerned about. And you brought up a great thing, how we would have argued that is good. What do you mean children?
Yeah, where
you mean 18-year-olds, 17-year-olds?
Because Trinidad Aragua has been recruiting members as young as 12.
Right.
As young as 12.
Right. So if we're talking about
So the answer is if they're in a situation like that, if that makes it safer to get everyone out, including the children, then they have to be escorted out in that way. I would rather have them in a zip tie than Trinidad Aragua putting them I grew up in Del Rio. Putting a gun in their hand at the age of 12 and getting them killed on the streets.
Yeah, you could see
I would rather them have a zip tie around their hands while they're being escorted away, taken to safety, to where we can hopefully reunite them with the adults that are responsible for them, maybe parents or something. But by the way, you don't even know who those children belong to.
Right.
That goes back to the larger problem with illegal immigration right now, because many of these recruits, and in fact, NYPD said these gangs are going out and they're recruiting here in the States. They're doing it, but we know in their country of origin they recruit. There was a story that was so just stunning and grotesque about what they found on the border in Texas, inside the state of Texas, the Mexican border. 3 young boys, and the gruesome facts regarding what they did, what they were trained to do to their victims even after they were dead. This has been going on for a long time. So the answer is yes. Zip ties is the much safer situation in that moment, even for young children, as you take them to safety, because that's the goal. ICE isn't going to take them somewhere and put a gun in their hand like the gang members. So the answer is yes.
Well, they're making it sound like they're taking 4 and 5-year-olds,
right,
and treating them inhumanely,
right,
that are caught in there. And
that's what they want you to believe.
As you and I've talked about, with the Venezuelan gang, they're recruiting people as young as 12. So you don't know when you walk in to a situation who it is. And yeah, you want to protect American law enforcement in these particular cases. But when you look at it, already the majority of Democrats support illegal immigrant criminals over the safety and security of American citizens. We know that already.
Right.
So the next step would be to demonize the law enforcement officers that are enforcing the law of the United States passed by Congress, who are the representatives of the people.
Yeah.
So the next step would be, if you're going to call that fascism, then it's not a huge jump to say ICE coming in to enforce federal law is an invasion, and then when we state we won't protect them and we'll let the mobs do what they want, we will then fight with the federal government not to allow those federal agents to be protected by the federal government.
Yeah.
Tell me where I'm wrong here at all.
Right.
Is there any point that I'm wrong at in that statement?
Nope, I don't see it. And by the way, some of those young children, 11, 12 years old, are trained to target police officers. Shocking, huh? Who would think? Wow, who would be targeting police officers? This is what the left wants you to think. This, by the way, this is also shows their ignorance in this whole thing. It's the first thing that I thought of. This has been going on for a long time. It's not just Venezuelan gangs. All of the cartels in Mexico have very, very young soldiers. And the fact that you don't know that tells me your ignorance on the subject. You don't know what you're talking about.
Well, it's all based on ignorance and lies.
Yes. And in a situation where you're clearing a room, that's the safest, if that officer deems that to be the safest procedure. Because, by the way, don't know if you've looked at a 12-year-old here lately, but they're fairly capable of obstructing, of grabbing something. You don't know what they've been trained to do. And the safest thing for them and everybody involved is to take them out and limit what they can do during that time. If that includes zip ties, that's better than a gun in their hands. Yes. All day. Yes.
866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
We are Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. So the Chicago police officials were trying to say that they did tell them to respond, right?
Right. Yeah.
But New York Post has the actual text
right
of the radio.
Right. Yes. And they transcribed that, and they also had an internal department memo at New York Post, which was obtained by Fox News. And so, now the police department, they disputed the claim. Chicago Police Department said, to clarify misinformation currently circulating, CPD officers did in fact respond to the shooting scene involving federal authorities on Saturday to maintain public safety and traffic control. Well, we know that they did. In fact, the audio talks about that because they were in a place where they were being surrounded.
Right. But they were told to stay, respond, but stay blocks away.
Right.
And then don't get involved in it.
Right.
So it's like, no, we told them to respond, just not to the ICE agents in trouble.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
I mean, what the hell?
It was,
God.
And this is why Pritzker's trying to tell everybody, well, that's just a lie, that's just a lie. Well, all of this played out. So tell us what the actual truth was. You can't dispute what went over the radio on dispatch.
Top of the Hour News is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Wow, I saw the part of I guess you could call it press release or information given by Jordan Peterson's daughter. Apparently, he was close to death.
Yeah, I had not known that.
Yeah.
Wow. Apparently had pneumonia at one point.
Sepsis, yeah.
And sepsis, which can become very delicate. I've had friends and family members over the years that have dealt with sepsis. In fact, a colleague of ours who is a longtime friend of mine, and he's a market manager in another town of a group of stations our company owns, and he's been in and out of the hospital with sepsis, and it can be really, really bad. So, but yeah, apparently, according to his daughter, Jordan Peterson was near death after he was hospitalized with pneumonia and sepsis. And this, in fact, was in the New York Post just yesterday. And she said that, according to her, Jordan Peterson spent nearly a month in intensive care, was near death in quotations, while battling pneumonia and sepsis this past summer. His daughter revealed in an emotional video update. This summer has been exceedingly difficult. That's a quote from Michaela Peterson. She said this in a YouTube post this week, describing Jordan Peterson's prolonged health crisis and calling the past few months terrifying for their family. I can't imagine. So our prayers are with Jordan Peterson and his family, and hopefully, he's through the worst of it.
Well, one of the things about Jordan Peterson, you think about the radical transgender movement. He was the one on not just a national scale or a North American scale, but on an international scale. He's the one that really brought that to the forefront of the insanity of it.
Yes.
We were talking about it at that time.
Right.
But he was getting so much publicity from what Canada was attempting to do, censor him, punish him, destroy his professional life. They were going out just to destroy him, and he was simply saying, a man can't be a woman because a man says so.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And and he was at the forefront of it, and there he was getting every type of death threat, you name it. He was getting hit big time. Do you remember the one speech he was doing where you could hear in the auditorium, there were people that were pounding on the doors, on the walls, on the windows? It sounded like people were on the roof.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it was absolutely insane.
Yeah.
As if they were being held hostage in that room. It was unbelievable.
Yeah. You know, you think about it, especially after the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Jordan Peterson has been certainly verbally targeted by his political opponents. We all know what the government of Canada thinks of Jordan Peterson, the Liberals. It's I can't imagine. You and I get a little bit of taste of that, but he's got this global profile now. That's been. I mean, after being on social media, writing so many books, being everywhere. I'd say almost a regular on the Joe Rogan podcast, and I think it was him that said one time he had a guy come up to him and say thank you, recognized him and said thank you, because I'm now able to explain things to my son. I'm basically, I can, thank you for what you did. But I'm thinking it as he was telling that story, oh man, you've got to be careful who approaches you. The one thing about the difference is you and I are on the radio and we don't make a lot of TV. In fact, these days, any TV appearances, his face is everywhere. He's easily recognizable. And so it must be quite nerve-wracking to be out there because you don't know who's going to. I mean, we deal with this when people come up and, say, hey, are you Eric Harley? Are you Gary McNamara? And then you're thinking, okay, which way is this going to go? And the majority of the time it's good. But it's with someone like Jordan Peterson. There has to be this, certain. There has to be a certain level of concern when something like that happens. But our thoughts and prayers are with him. She said he is out of ICU now, according to his daughter, Michaela, according to the post from YouTube. But she said he also experienced some neurological symptoms.
Yeah.
And they don't know if that's related. She said there's really no clear explanation there.
Mold exposure.
Mold exposure because
possibility.
He was cleaning out his father's basement. And so they don't know if there was something, there that may have happened. But, our thoughts and prayers are with them.
I look at everything that's gone over the last 10 years on a number of topics, not just on the radical transgender movement, because he also talked about a lot of different things, identity politics and all that. But you think about it, he really was the one from an intellectual science standpoint, not a political standpoint.
Right.
But he is the one that I actually think led that charge.
Yeah.
He is the one.
Yeah.
From in the arena of ideas, of intellectual ideas, not I know in politics there's intellectual ideas, but he wasn't associated with any political party when he first came out and was doing this.
Right.
He just said, I'm a clinical psychologist. This is ridiculous.
Right.
This is not at all. They're breaking all the norms of science and you name it, they're doing it. And so he came to it from a scientific medical point of view.
Yeah.
Which made him extremely dangerous to the left.
Yes.
Because when you couldn't argue with him, that was tough. He normally wasn't going to get in. I never forget Ben Shapiro. Remember Ben Shapiro was it Dr. Drew?
Yeah, it was.
With Dr. Drew.
When Dr. Drew was on CNN.
Yeah, and
it was CNN headline news.
And it was the transgender woman, I think, on there, right?
Right.
And threatened to beat up for just bringing it up. Remember everybody there with Dr. I don't even think Dr. Drew buys that anymore. He seems to actually be looking at the left going, I've seen him speak a couple of times. I'm like, okay, he's changing.
Yeah.
Because he was like, well, no, you're not a woman, you're a man.
Yeah, because Ben was bringing up biology,
right,
science, to the party of science.
And everybody on the panel was like, well, it doesn't matter whether you're correct. Don't you realize that by saying those things, you triggered him and made him feel bad?
Right.
And even Dr. Drew seemed to be like, well, when you say these things, that's not the point.
Right.
The point is not hurt feelings.
Right.
Sorry. That's in the arena of ideas. It's not, we can't discuss that because we might hurt a feeling over here.
But that's how the left is effective in shutting down discussions, because you're hurting somebody. You're hurting somebody. You're hurting somebody. Look, in the arena of public ideas, there are people that aren't going to like some things you say. It's the whole point of having the discussion, because you're going to right there put your differences on the table. But Ben was introducing science, by the way.
Right, remember that? Most of the time, Jordan Peterson didn't get into it wasn't in that way because that guy threatened to beat up Ben that day, remember?
Yeah.
I'll take you outside right now.
Yeah,
That's
right.
like, whoa, wait a minute.
Right.
How did we get here? And then everybody turned against Ben because don't you realize you triggered him?
Yeah, right.
And you can't trigger anybody. Well, no, you're responsible for your own triggering.
Exactly.
I'm not responsible
how
for
you
your
handle something.
triggering.
Because if you want to be angry at me, that's fine. You start threatening me with bodily harm is where you cross that line. It's
unless
I don't care about your emotions.
Unless you threaten to kill people privately in emails.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I'm talking. We'll get to that. Talking about the situation with
the
Attorney General candidate.
My gosh,
in Virginia, right?
Yeah,
Virginia.
How bizarre is that story?
Yeah, someone on CNN was saying, "Well, no, he shouldn't be. He shouldn't have to drop out because they were private emails." And I'm thinking to myself,
"You weren't. Yeah, you weren't. You guys weren't supposed to learn this,
right? You weren't supposed to know." Well, if it's private, it shows maybe that's what he truly believes, and he wouldn't put that out publicly.
Right?
That'll scare hell of a lot of people who are saying that's the guy that we want enforcing the law in our state,
right?
And it was a former Republican leader that he was, talking about.
Right,
We'll get to that, but that just popped into my head.
Well, but no, I mean, that's the thing is that, again, if you want to get passionate about something, or even if you want to get to the point of being upset, your emotions, you have to control your emotions. You have to not cross the boundaries. People get emotional all the time. You can have passionate discussions back and forth. The fact of the matter is, the left right now, I mean, my gosh, how far back does that go? That was back when CNN still had headline news.
Wow.
It was on the headline news channel.
Yeah.
And so, but here we are in 2025, and Ben Shapiro's still in the thick of it and still doing the same thing and holds the same positions. And now you see how far the left is willing to go. This is why it's dangerous when you have governors saying this is a Trump invasion.
Yeah.
Like Pritzker's saying.
Yeah.
When you're talking about these, Trump is Hitler. This is the Gestapo. These ICE agents or, the National Guard, whichever, one they want to assign it to, because they assign it to all, anybody under the direction of Trump. They're the Gestapo. They want you to believe. And again, they're kidnapping people off of the streets.
Yeah,
and that rhetoric,
they're lying.
That sets up anybody who may be prone to violence or planning something. That sets up we'll use what Tim Walz said, permission structure. They become the permission structure to cross that line, cross that boundary, and commit an act of violence. That's the potential we're seeing. We've seen it play out in reality, and the left isn't stopping this past weekend, further evidence of that.
86690 Red Eye.
This morning's USDA Farm Report is brought to you by House Products. Tested, trusted, guaranteed since 1920.
A look at this year's forecasted U.S. apple production indicates more apples expected to be harvested.
The apple crop is forecast at 11.5 billion pounds, according to the August USDA NASS crop production report. The 2025 apple crop marks the third season in the last decade that annual production exceeded 11 billion pounds based on 7 NASS surveyed states.
And USDA research economist Catherine Weber says if those forecasts hold up, apple production will be up 6% year over year, but similar to production numbers from 2023.
In Washington, the largest apple producing state, the crop is forecast to be 8 billion pounds, 7% higher or 520 million pounds more than last year. If realized, the 2025 apple crop would be the largest in Washington history.
By variety, Gala and Delicious remain the tops in annual production, but this season sees Honeycrisp production moving into third place among apple varieties produced by volume. I'm Ron Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
This report brought to you by Cenex Fuels and Lubes.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
We are Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Yeah, so the Chicago politicians trying to say that the police did respond. Here's from the New York Post. This is actually the transcript of the radio transmission, the dispatch radio transmission.
Right.
Quote, younger male, Hispanic, wearing all black, wanting for the hit and run. This guy fled from the scene. A female dispatcher blares in response to a call for help by the surrounded ICE agents on audio shared by X Alerts. When, quote, when the offending vehicle crashed, they ran the federal agent off the road. They fled on foot westbound. This is all from the radio transmission. This is a transcript. Then a male voice comes on the radio channel telling the dispatcher to direct officers to head to the scene and stay put a few blocks away and wait for further instruction, which she relays. A few seconds later, a male voice is heard again saying tersely, quote, per the chief of patrol, clear everybody out. We're not responding over there, end of quote. The female dispatcher then tells officers on the way to the distress call, per the chief of patrol, is quote, per the chief of patrol, all units clear out from there. We're not sending anybody out to that location, end of quote. Male officer responds over the sounds of sirens wailing in the background, saying, we're going to clear out as soon as we can. We're like blocked in over here, so we're going to do the best we can to get out of here as soon as we can. An internal department memo sent to Chicago cops and obtained by Fox News confirms that shocking reversal. And they go through it again.
Yeah.
The actual memo that was sent.
Right.
So, I mean, it's clear they're lying about it. You know what you hear now? You know what I'm hearing now? They're making it sound like all Chicago's bad. These are just certain particular areas.
Right. But
Same
mostly
thing
peaceful.
Same thing they're saying in Portland.
Yeah.
They're making it sound like all. No, we're talking about the incidents that are happening and what should be the response of local authorities to federal authorities and what the authority should be of the President of the United States when federal officers are not protected from violent protesters.
Yep.
That's what it is. And everybody on the left, you heard it earlier with the former TMZ reporter on with Scott Jennings.
Yeah.
Everything is a deflection from what about children, the way children are being treated when they go after these Venezuelan gangs.
Mm-hmm.
What?
Yeah, again, make it seem they need to build on this narrative. They're taking children away in zip ties. They're using now the mostly peaceful thing. Well, it's not happening in all of Chicago. Nobody made the case that it was. But where it's happening, it needs to be dealt with. Those ICE agents deserve to be protected because they're being actively targeted. We know this. Those are facts. And the left is okay with it. The left is promoting them taking their masks off so that they can be doxxed, so they can be found easier, so they can be identified. And they're trying to deflect at every turn, every single time they get in front of a camera and make you feel like, oh, nothing's going wrong here. Trump is the only one doing wrong, according to them.
On our website, RedEyeRadioShow.com. Show info with stations, podcasts, and more. Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. All right, a couple of things here. This is from National Review. You did see, actually, they covered two stories that were of interesting. The Jay Jones misdirection. It was because of the story in National Review that the whole Jay Jones story came out, and it's the story about this Virginia Attorney General candidate, a Democrat, fantasizing about shooting Todd Gilbert, the Republican who was then Speaker of the Virginia House, talked about urinating on the graves of Republican office holders if they predeceased him, and expressed his belief that Republicans would only change their views if they experienced personal pain, and allegedly gave up, as an example, the wife of Todd Gilbert watching her daughter die in her arms. Wow. It was, of course, everybody's calling for him to drop out of the race. But this is great. Rather than slinking away somewhere upon the revelation of these disqualifying messages, Jones responded with defiant misdirection. Like all people, I've sent text messages that I regret. Yes, who among us hasn't hoped to see people we disagree with get shot or suffer the loss of a loved one versus a text message? That was their response.
Yeah.
Okay. That was the National Review's response.
Yeah.
Most of us regret text messages with embarrassing autocorrects, not passionate explanations of why we want to see our political opponents die. Then he continued, but let us be clear about what's happening in the Attorney General's race here. The opposition is dropping smears through Trump-controlled media organizations to assault my character and rescue his desperate campaign. National Review writes, the only things wrong with this sentence are that the report was not the product of a opposition dump by the opposition. The report wasn't a smear, since it was entirely accurate, as Jones himself has conceded, and we are not a Trump-controlled media organization.
Right.
Anybody who knows of National Review knows it's a conservative publication with a variety of writers who are basically hired and told, just go write what you want.
Right.
And so we don't always agree with them, but if you're looking for a place where you can debate conservative ideas back and forth, because they debate with each other.
Right.
You've seen that. Somebody will come out with the column.
Oh,
and go,
yeah.
All right, saw the column. Love this guy, but he's wrong here.
Yep.
And they'll go back and forth and argue with each other.
Yep.
It's exactly what you want.
Right.
But Trump has criticized National Review tons of times.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at it, actually, when you think about all the legal stuff of the Russia collusion hoax, and we've always told Trump, if you want to attack whoever you want, you're going to. You don't care what we think, and that's fine. But understand that when you go after National Review and Wall Street Journal, they were the leaders with talk radio in asking questions early on and debunking so much about the Russia collusion and attacking the Democrats early on for the lawfare against you.
Well, Andrew McCarthy who writes also at National Review wrote the book Ball of Collusion and made the legal points as a former prosecutor in Trump's favor. By the way, we've said about that regarding that book, we need a follow-up. Since it's been a few years since that book came out, we definitely need a follow-up on that book. But no, it's they'll lay it out there. They're not waving any person's flag. It's conservative principles, and there's healthy debate always going on at the National Review. But you look at what's going on here with this AG candidate in Virginia. My gosh.
So
it's over the top. By the way, the Virginia Beach Democratic Committee issued a statement. We're lined up, 10 toes down, ready to organize, mobilize, and deliver votes for Jay and our entire Democratic ticket.
Yep.
Recent press may have spotlighted his past mistakes. Mistake? What? As they point out in National Review, that's not like autocorrect or something.
Right, it's not a mistake.
We say, let those without sin cast the first stone. Really? Really? Because I've never, not once,
but it does
texted anybody anything like that.
Right, but I'm not surprised because it shows you how it's become more mainstream in liberal and Democrat circles to promote the death of your opponent or the murder of your opponent.
They're fine with it.
Even your opponent's child.
Yes.
But your political opponents.
They're fine with it.
Right. A Democrat candidate for this from Breitbart for Attorney General was grilled about comments he made pondering shooting a former Republican Virginia House Speaker and allegedly wishing death upon the lawmaker's children. In an interview with ABC News reporter Tyler Englander, Jay Jones was asked about his comments and how Virginia could trust a man who said something horrific. Englander's interview with Jones came after the National Review reported that in 2022, Jones sent messages to Virginia House Delegate Kerry Coyner complaining about his colleagues eulogizing a recently deceased Democratic lawmaker and then going on to entertain thoughts of shooting former Virginia Speaker of the House and of delegates Todd Gilbert. Per the National Review, text messages obtained by the outlet show Jones wrote to Coyner saying that if faced with a hypothetical situation in which he only had 2 bullets and had to pick between shooting either Gilbert or 2 dictators, he would pick Gilbert. If those guys die before me, referencing the Republican colleagues who were publicly honoring the deceased memory of the lost Democrat, I will go to their funerals to pee, he used the other word, on their graves to send them out awash in something. He then suggested that presented with a hypothetical situation in which he only had 2 bullets and was faced with the choice of murdering then Speaker of the House, Todd Gilbert, or 2 dictators, he would shoot Gilbert every time, prompting pushback from his former colleague. Wow. A lot of politics is about trust, the reporter said to him. I can think of nothing more horrific than a mother having to hold her dying children. How can Virginians trust a man who said something so horrific? Well, again, I am so deeply sorry for what I said, and I wish it hadn't happened, and I would take it back if I could. When asked about the text messages about Gilbert and what he was thinking, Jones expressed that he sincerely and from the bottom of his heart wanted to express remorse and regret over his words. Here's the thing. I've never said those words ever in my whole life to anybody.
No.
We've never wished it. And the thing is, we actually do a lot more ad lib.
Yeah.
Than any of these politicians ever do.
Right.
I mean, we know what the topics are. We may read quotes like we're reading here so people can get the exact quote in the message. But the fact is we give our opinions each and every day. We know what the topics are, and we comment on the topics. and never have we ever come close to saying anything like that, because we don't believe that, and we know that's out of bounds even to kid about that.
Yep. Yeah, it's this whole thing is bizarre, but again, it tells you where the left is and where the Democratic Party, at least the Democratic Party there in Virginia Beach, is. They issued their statement. So they're not.
It's not controversial to them.
No, it isn't. No. They're fine with it.
We saw it after the assassination of Charlie Kirk.
Yep.
We've seen it.
Yep. Just unreal, man. Unreal. That's the landscape today, though. That is the landscape. And again, this is how you normalize, through violent rhetoric, through violent language, you normalize and justify the violence itself eventually.
I was reading an op-ed piece talking about the false charges of hate encourage violence. You saw the Anti-Defamation League that threw its smear of Charlie Kirk.
Right.
They knew it was wrong.
Right.
The ADL, they retired its glossary of extremism because they had Turning Point USA on there. They go, where are they extreme? Why were you doing this?
Right.
And the Southern Poverty Law Center still has them on it. They said when these officials' organizations are out there and they're quoted by politicians, it gives legitimacy. Well, these people, they only work in hate, and they're hate groups, and they've been monitoring hate, and Charlie Kirk's Turning Point USA is a hate-mongering group. You never say why.
You never give any examples.
You just throw it out there. The ADL, the Southern Poverty Law Center, they all say this, and it's like, no, they're the hate-mongers.
Yeah.
In that case, for the ADL, because I don't always disagree with the ADL, but in that case, they're hate mongers.
Yep.
They're calling somebody an extremist who is not.
Right. Right. To build fear.
Right. For what reaction? Just to get votes?
Right. Is it just, as they say,
or
mobilize people and get them to the polls? No. It's to build fear in the minds of individuals. It's the same reason you say Trump is Hitler, Trump is a fascist, ICE is the Gestapo. This kind of language builds that fear. You're telling them, you're lying to them, telling them they're kidnapping people off of the streets. And they know, they already know. They've got enough of the radicals out there, the rank and file on the streets, to get them to respond to their language in the way that they clearly are trying to get them to respond. We're seeing ICE being targeted. We're seeing these aren't protests.
Well, when you think about what happened, the cars surrounding the ICE agents, and then the woman who was, they say, shot.
Mm-hmm.
But and they said, though, but she was well known. She was well known, doxing them, and they've got the quotes from her and everything.
Right.
Apparently, she's been on social media. They knew exactly who she was.
Right.
And they came ram them and everything else. And it's like, for God's sakes, you can't justify that. And for Pritzker attempting to justify it or calling it propaganda as he did yesterday, these people don't give a damn about the safety of citizens, but they look at it and they say, well, what the hell? Our citizens, you look at the Democratic Party that's left. They all believe that criminals should run free in sanctuary cities. Yep. They're not in agreement with this.
Right.
We go back to that poll from about a month ago that showed what Democrats think about it, or the Democrats remaining.
Yeah.
Maybe a lot of people saying we're not Democrat anymore by this. But you think, and that's why we pointed out, and we go point by point by point to show you that everything that Trump is doing here, you can make a constitutional argument for.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And a constitutional argument means it's democracy in action, and it's enforcing the law of the people through their elected representatives. You may not like it, but you don't get to choose the law.
Right.
And that's the whole point. these Democrats, Pritzker and the rest of them, believe, no, we don't have to abide by federal law.
Right. Right.
866-90-RED-EYE.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
We are Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. I want to play this audio cut from the Lieutenant Governor of Virginia, Winsome Sears, also running as a Republican for governor of Virginia, calling out Democratic leaders over the J. Jones leak.
The calls for hate and violence are coming from the mouths of the Democrat Party's leaders. And J. Jones is just the most recent, and his wish for violent acts the most clear. So if you can't solve a problem, you can't name it, but I will. And here and now, the leadership of the Democrat Party has become consumed with hate.
You know, we've talked a long time ago when we accuse, anybody of hate or racism, that you better be able to back it up. And what we've done is when we've said that about Democrat leaders in the Democratic Party, we've talked about their identity politics.
Yeah,
and the thing is, it's not controversial. It may be to some, but the fact is everybody knows it, including Democrats, that they judge people by groups and not individuals.
Right.
Very easy. People in 2025 know that's wrong.
Yep.
That's mainstream in the Democratic Party.
Yep.
That's where it all comes from. I believe that's when you mainstream that, you mainstream racism, and after that, you mainstream hate.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.